everyone, welcome back to my channel. I know I haven't posted in a while, but that's because I've been a little bit busy. But today I have a really fun Great League Remix team for you guys that I used to climb to my season high, which was around the 3,200s. The team is Annihilape lead with EMOLGA on the save swap and Shadow Zapdos in the back, and I know a lot of people might not have access to these Pokemon, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend this team. I made it work and I had so much fun running this team. If you have it, I highly recommend trying it. But the only reason I don't recommend it is because this team needs like 10 shields. Everything here is super squishy, has no bulk, and you just need to get shields from somewhere. If you play it really creatively, you can get away with it though. Anyways, I'm not going to ramble too much because there isn't really a strategy behind this team. I was inspired by my Annihilape double electric team that I was using in Ultra League, which was Annihilape and Shadow Ampharos and Zapdos in the back. So I got the inspiration from there and it worked really well for me in the Ultra League, and I thought, you know, why not take advantage of the fact that right now Bastiodon in Remix is banned, Lantern is also banned, Registeel is banned, and I think Alolan Sandslash is also banned. So I thought, why not take this opportunity to run this double electric team, and I had so much fun with it. I am going to share the battles with you guys, and I'm just going to stop talking because I have been rambling way too much. I should say these battles are overdue. They are from Go Battle Weekend. By the way, I hope everyone had a really lovely Go Battle Weekend, and also this team is extremely core broken by Carbink. I started seeing a lot of Carbinks, so I had to, unfortunately, stop running this team. Anyways, in the first game, we are going to see that Venusaur on the lead, and I immediately swap into my Shadow Zapdos. I know I said EMOLGA was a safe swap, but EMOLGA is not going to be getting to that acrobatics fast enough, so I swapped in Zapdos, and my opponent brings in a Walrein. I go for the Drill Peck on the first move, I take a shield from them, and then I go for the Thunderbolt on the second move, and we manage to take both shields from our opponent. So this is great for us. I'm going to go ahead and bring in Annihilape here. No shield whatever this Walrein is going to throw at us, and we manage to KO the Walrein. Unfortunately, they do take us out as well with the Powder Snow damage, and all of that energy I had on the Annihilape is wasted. But anyways, my opponent is going to be 2 shields down, and we're going to be able to land the acrobatics on the Venusaur, one-shotting it, and now we can go for a discharge up against this Empoleon, and I still have a shield left. My opponent, for some reason, they had a move on their Venusaur, I'm pretty sure, and they could have thrown it on our EMOLGA, but for some reason they didn't. If they had, I think I would have lost this. But we're able to take their Venusaur out with EMOLGA, and we're able to take the Empoleon out and take that win. Moving on to the next match, we are going to be met with a Gligar, which is a terrible lead for us. I immediately bring in my EMOLGA, and even though technically Zapdos and EMOLGA are going to be resisting everything from Gligar, that dig is still going to be hurting so much. I managed to land an acrobatics on the Gligar. It's not enough to take it out, unfortunately, but now I just have to go for those discharges, and that will be enough to KO the Gligar. They invest a shield, I invested a shield as well, but we are going to be able to beat them to the next discharge. They let their Gligar go, which is really good for us. I needed that Gligar out of the way, and my opponent is going to have a Feraligatr in the back. I bring in Annihilape because my opponent has so much energy built up on that Feraligatr. They did farm our EMOLGA down, unfortunately, and I go for a Night Slash. We take their final shield, and now I can bring in Zapdos, and Zapdos is absolutely going to go on a rampage because my opponent has no shields left. I went ahead and I shielded the Hydro Cannon myself. I don't have any shields left, but it looks like my opponent is going to have a Poliwrath in the back, and I am going to be able to outpace to that Thunderbolt, take the Poliwrath out, and take that win. I think the Drill Peck would have been enough there, but let's just go for the Thunderbolt because that's more fun. Moving on to the next battle, we are going to see a terrible lead of Sableye, and I really wish Sableye was banned from this cup because then Annihilape would be free, but oh well. I swap immediately into my EMOLGA and I draw out the dreaded Carbink, and my opponent is going to be able to farm us down completely with the Carbink and have so much energy for my Annihilape. I think they'll be able to reach 2 Moonblasts here, and I know that going shields down is not going to be good for the Zapdos that I have in the back. They even get an attack drop on the Moonblast. Like, how unlucky am I? I'm going to go for a Shadow Ball here. Thankfully, my opponent lets it go. We're able to take the Carbink out, and my opponent is going to have a Dewgong in the back. That's not going to be good for my flying type, so I go ahead and I back out. Unfortunately, in that game, we were hard countered. On to the next battle, we are going to see an Annihilape on the lead, and I immediately swap into one of my back Pokemon because I have 2 flyers in the back, so I really want to draw out whatever the flying type counter is. My opponent goes for a Night Slash and takes a shield from me, but I am going to go for that Drill Peck here and bait my opponent, and then I'm going to go for a Thunderbolt, and my opponent actually lets it go. We're able to one-shot the Dewgong. Now let's see what my opponent's going to do. They bring the Annihilape back in, and we're even able to reach a Drill Peck on the Annihilape. This is definitely going to take their final shield, and I can bring in Emolga. I have a shield left. Once my opponent sees the Emolga, they go ahead and they top left. I'm assuming they were probably walled by electric types in the back. I'm gonna guess maybe a Mantine. Maybe. I don't know. I'll never know. But that was a 4-1 with a very spicy team. In Leaderboard's ELO, by the way. This was Leaderboard's ELO. I'm not sure if it still is, but top 500, and we're doing really well with double electric. I should say I missed that leaderboard update, unfortunately, so I never got my screenshot. But moving on to the next battle, we're going to see a Poliwrath on the lead, and technically Annihilape is good against Poliwrath, so I stay in. However, my opponent is going to have a Carbink in the back, and after I took an Icy Wind on my Annihilape, so I'm debuffed. Not only am I debuffed, but that Icy Wind did so much damage to our Annihilape, and because they got us really low, they were able to come in with Carbink and go for a full farm down. Now Carbink has so much energy, enough to reach 2 Rock Slides up against Emolga. I went ahead and I shielded the first one, but I didn't want to invest my second shield because I don't want to go all shields down with my Shadow Zapdos in the back. So I save 1 shield for Zapdos. I'm going to go ahead and use it here. It's just an Aerial Ace from the Gligar. But my opponent has 2 shields left, and it's not looking good for me. I'm going to go ahead and go for that first Drill Peck. We take a shield from them, and I have no shields left. I'm going to have to take this Aerial Ace. I'm going to be able to reach another one, but I don't think I'll be able to outpace to the third before my opponent can reach an Aerial Ace. They let their Gligar go anyways, but I guess they're saving their final shield for the Carbink. They shield the Drill Peck here, and then they were going to be able to Rock Throw us down and take that win. On to the next battle, we are going to see a lead that's not that great for us. It is going to be Tapu Fini into our Annihilape. I immediately swap into Emolga, and my opponent actually lets me reach the Discharge. So we managed to take a shield from them, and they only build up to the Surf, so I'm going to go ahead and let it go. It looks like my opponent is going to have a Sableye in the back. I could have gone for the Acrobatics there. I should have stuck to it. I would have survived 1 more Shadow Claw, but unfortunately I do go for that Discharge, and my opponent lets it go. At least we got the Sableye into the yellow. Again, Sableye, terrible for my Annihilape. I'm going to bring in Zapdos now because I know that Zapdos can reach those Drill Pecks really quickly. My opponent actually uses their final shield on their Sableye, so this is telling me whatever they have in the back, it's going to be weak to the Zapdos. So I go ahead, I use my final shield as well. My opponent brings the Tapu Fini back in, and I go for a Drill Peck, but they catch it on an Annihilape, and they are in farm down range for our Annihilape. I'm able to counter them down, and I will be able to outpace to that Shadow Ball before the Tapu Fini can reach a move. We take them out, and we take that win. GG's to our opponent. Now, up until this moment, I was having so much fun. I had found a spicy team that was working for me. I'm at my season high. What could possibly go wrong to ruin this perfect day for me? Well, you know Pokemon Go doesn't come without its glitches. My app crashes as soon as I find a battle up against an opponent, and I get a loss for absolutely no reason. Really disappointing. Again, I'm at my season high. It's just a big letdown when stuff like that happens. And my app has actually started crashing a lot more after the update, so I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I just have to accept it. Anyways, to add more salt onto the wound, I lead Annihilape into a Shadow Charizard, and Shadow Charizard is not going to be great for my entire team, but my opponent swaps a Surfetched into our Emolga. I go for the Acrobatics, but really I should have gone for the Discharge. I'm going to go ahead and let Emolga go here, and I can bring my Annihilape in and hopefully leave this matchup with a ton of energy. Actually, I think I'm gonna go for a full farm down. I'm gonna shield here in case this is a Brave Bird. It's not, it's just a Leaf Blade, so I know I can let this next one go. And now I'm gonna have a ton of energy built up on my Annihilape. I'm gonna go immediately for the Shadow Ball against the Charizard. If they let it go, it would one-shot. They did, and I'm gonna bring my Zapdos in. It looks like my opponent is going to have a Chestnut in the back. Zapdos is absolutely going to wall the Chestnut. Unfortunately, it's still going to be taking a lot of damage from those Frenzy plants, but I am going to be able to outpace to 2 Drill Pecks before my opponent can reach another move, and this Drill Peck will be enough to take the Chestnut out. GG's to our opponent. So that last match went well. Maybe if I hadn't gotten the loss from crashing, I would have gone positive in this set, but oh well. Moving on to the next match, we are going to have a really nice lead of Greedent, and I mess up big time here. I stay in with my Annihilape way too long when my opponent swaps into their own Annihilape, and I let them get 2 counters. That means now I am not going to be able to outpace to 3 Drill Pecks before my opponent can reach a 3rd Night Slash. And I also make a huge mistake here. I shield my Zapdos thinking I can get to another Drill Peck for some reason, although I was counting and I knew they had 15 counters here. So they were at their 3rd Night Slash and they will be able to take our Zapdos out. I'm even expecting my opponent to have another anti-fighter in the back because they let that Greedent. So I go for that Shadow Ball immediately, and like I expected, my opponent has that Mantine in the back. This should have been an easy win for me. I only lose this game because I was really slow on that swap, and that means that I let my opponent get that energy, and they were going to be able to outpace to 3 moves before I could reach 3 moves. And that's one of the downfalls, unfortunately, of running a team that you're not really used to. You do swap out a lot slower. You're not really quick on those swaps. Of course, my opponent is going to be able to bring that Mantine back in and take her EMOLGA out, and my Annihilape is not going to be able to handle that Mantine on its own. So I am going to take a loss there. That is going to be a negative set, unfortunately. In the end, it was my fault because that last game I should have won. But you know, the crash really helped me get that negative set. I'm just going to say that. Moving on to the next game, we are going to see an Annihilape on the lead, and as I did before, I immediately swap into my EMOLGA to draw out the anti-flyer. It looks like my opponent is going to have a Dugong in the back. I'm able to reach 2 discharges on this Dugong. If they let the second one go, it will take them out, but they go ahead and invest a shield. This is going to be good for me because any shields I can get out of the way, it will be very good for the Zapdos that I have in the back. I'm going to go for a full farm down with my Annihilape. And I was thinking I would save both of my shields for my Zapdos, but I went ahead and shielded Annihilape there. My opponent has a Mandibuzz in the back, and then I bring in my Zapdos. They swap into their Annihilape, and they top left. They might have had a chance there to win that, but they went ahead and they top lefted. The Mandibuzz is pretty bulky up against Zapdos. It does actually pretty well, but we'll never know. That's fine. We get another win. Anyways, moving on to the next battle, we're going to see a terrible lead. This is actually another core breaker for this team because the 2 Pokemon that I have in the back are not going to be able to handle Cresselia very well. Thankfully, they actually let the Shadow Ball go on their Cresselia. That gets them into the red. I even managed to take a Grass Knot on my EMOLGA, and now I can go for a discharge up against this Cresselia, and we actually take a shield from them. I'm going to go ahead and let my EMOLGA go because I'm hoping that whatever my opponent has in the back, they aren't going to be able to handle Zapdos. And I can even bring in Zapdos here, go for a full farm down on the Cresselia, and have a ton of energy for the next Pokemon that my opponent is going to bring in. They bring in a Ferrothorn. These Drill Pecks are absolutely going to be hurting. And after I throw the first Drill Peck, I swap into my Annihilape, and my opponent has a Mantine in the back. Now all I have to do is save both of my shields for my Zapdos, basically go for a full farm down up against this Mantine, shield whatever they're going to throw here. I think it's just going to be the Aerial Ace. Nope, they go for the Water Pulse. We farm them down, and now we have 2 Drill Pecks ready for this Ferrothorn. 1 should be enough to take it out. We're going to go for that second one. Now let's see if this is enough to KO the Ferrothorn. It is. We take them out and we take that win. GG's to our opponent. Moving on to the next battle, we are going to see a terrible lead of Shadow Gligar. I'm immediately going to swap into my EMOLGA, and here I should have gone for the acrobatics. I go for the discharge and my opponent actually calls it. They no shield. If I had gone for that acrobatics, it would have done so much damage. And it looks like my opponent is going to have a Shadow Magnezone in the back. I'm going to go for the discharge and it actually does like almost 50% of their health. So I'm able to reach a second one. My opponent goes ahead and gives up a shield so that they could save their Magnezone. They go for a Mirror Shot and take EMOLGA out. Now I want to save both of my shields for Zapdos because I know I'm not going to be able to take that Gligar out with Annihilape. And in order to handle it with a Zapdos, I'm going to need those shields. So I let the Wild Charge go. Unfortunately, that means our Annihilape is basically dead. I bring in Zapdos, and it looks like my opponent is going to have a Tapu Fini in the back, but unfortunately, those water guns are going to be hurting a lot, so they get us into the yellow. I decide to let whatever this is go because I know I'm not going to win this. My opponent is going to be able to reach another move, and I just go ahead and I top left. Moving on to the next battle, we're going to see a Carbink on the lead. I absolutely have to take this out with my Annihilape. It cannot see my backline. My opponent is going to swap into a Shadow Sableye. That's two Pokemon that are going to be terrible for this team. I bring in EMOLGA and I'm just going to be going for these discharges. My opponent shields the first one. I'm going to have to invest my second shield in order to have a chance up against this Sableye. I go for another discharge, and this time my opponent actually lets it go, and I know that if I try to farm them down, my opponent would get to another move, so I go for that third discharge. Unfortunately, I have to use up all of my energy, and now I'm 2 shields down. That means this Carbink is going to be able to land a Moonblast on our Annihilape. So this is definitely not looking good for me. They go for a Moonblast here. They're still in the yellow, and Zapdos is not going to be able to handle the Carbink. So unfortunately, I am going to have to top left there. Moving on to the next battle, we're going to see a Feraligatr on the lead. Okay, I swap into my EMOLGA here, even though I know I'm not going to be able to outpace anymore because I am a turn behind. But I'm going to go for a discharge here and take a shield from the Feraligatr. My opponent isn't swapping out, so this is telling me that maybe they're weak in the back to my Zapdos. My opponent even makes a big mistake here, probably thinking that Feraligatr wins CMP over EMOLGA, but they CMP tie with us on the discharge. I win CMP. I'm able to go for that discharge and take my opponent's final shield. I bring Annihilape back into the Feraligatr to take the energy that it has. I even get it into Thunder Shock range, and then I swap into my Zapdos. My opponent blind swaps into a Victory Bell. I'm able to go for that Drill Peck and one-shot the Victory Bell. Then my opponent brings the Feraligatr back in, but they see that I was going to be able to farm them down, so they go ahead and they top left. GG's to our opponent, and with that win, we are going to get another positive set with this team. That brings us to the end of our video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys like my content, please consider subscribing. Maybe leave a like, it helps me out so much. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye!